215-204-9449 is the number if you want to call and hang with us. And I still can't get over this Temple victory over Dayton. It was just absolutely incredible. Everyone on campus thought Temple's tournament hopes were dead when you had Dayton up 10 points with 5 minutes to go. And then this Temple team is resilient. They storm all the way back. Khalif Wyatt has a big three ball, and the man who was on the call was Bob Valvano from ESPN, who was a former head coach. And obviously we all know his story. His older brother was Jimmy V. So we all love everything that goes on with the Valvano family, so let's welcome in Bob right now. Bob, Zach, Chase, and Haley, how are you?
Good. Nice to be with you guys today. Thanks for having me.
Well, thanks for coming on.
Well, thank you for coming on, and let's get to the big shot in this game. Khalif Wyatt, they're down 2 points. He sets up and takes a gutsy shot from three. What did you see on that play?
Well, I mean, that's a senior. That's the thing that I'm impressed with, a guy who's an upperclassman. They have that ability to understand, when to go, when not to go, let the game come to you, all the cliches you use, but it's true. I mean, my broadcast partner, Jason Benetti, who does a terrific job, but he said, Khalif Wyatt's only got 6 points at the half, and I was like, don't worry about seniors who do that. They understand. Their time will come. You just keep playing, and eventually the game will dictate when it's time for you to go. I mean, Rick Pitino tells his guys that all the time from his years in the NBA. He said, Michael Jordan had a game against his team where he had 36 points, and you think, well, you have 9 in each quarter. No, you might have 3 in the first quarter and 15 in the second quarter, and then none in the third, and then 8 or 9 in the fourth, and that's how the game works. And Khalif made 3 threes in the second half after only making 1 in the first half, and with the game on the line, he just looked really confident. That's what you look for, and that's what you need in college basketball now, guys. Take a look at every game over the weekend. I mean, every game of note, it seems, was an overtime game, a one-possession game. The games have fewer possessions than they have had in a long time, and so you need guys at the ends of games to make good decisions and make good plays for you, and he certainly did that.
The two big players for this Temple team have been Khalif Wyatt and Anthony Lee all season long. And after that Syracuse win, expectations were high. And then even after the Kansas game, I know Temple did lose that game, but they outplayed Kansas up until the final 2 minutes. The expectations for this team were high. And now all of a sudden you've seen a few 8-10 losses. It's a very rigorous conference. I don't think it gets the credit nationally that it deserves. And I know Temple's going into the Big East next year. But you look at Khalif and Anthony, and you mentioned Khalif. He struggled in the first half of games this year, and I know that's how the game dictates itself. And then he's come out in the second half, and he's been amazing. But when you look at Temple, after you take away Khalif and Anthony Lee, who do you think could be that third man for this Temple team as they try to get into the March Madness tournament?
Well, that's the problem. You just summed it up. I mean, I talked to Franny Dunphy both the night before the game and the morning of the game, and Franny and I go way back. He was an assistant at American when I was an assistant at Hofstra, and I've known him forever, and I like everybody in the free world. I think he's a great guy.
Do you call him Dr. Dunphy just like Seth Greenberg does?
No, I don't quite go that far, no. Seth and I go way back. Well, I blocked Seth's shot in high school once. I never let him forget that.
Oh, really? So Seth's a good friend to the show, so we will definitely, next time he comes on, we'll tell him that you blocked his shot in high school.
He won't even remember. He's blocked that out, I'm sure. But he says the same thing. And the good news, which would you like, the half full or half empty version? Because the half full version is the thing that Fran has said to me, if I had $1 for every coach that has said that to me this year, I'd be calling from Belize in my vacation home right now. Every coach says the same thing. I don't know who we are going to be from this night to the next night. Some nights we play. I'm talking to Thad Mata the night where I had the Michigan-Ohio State game for ESPN Radio, and before the game he says to me, we're just not very good. He's not bad-mouthing his team. I said, why do you say that? He said, we just have such a small margin for error, from one night to the next. And then they come out and they took Michigan to overtime at Michigan. And there is, I've seen enough teams this year to say the right matchups in the tournament, Ohio State could make a deep run and maybe wind up in the Final Four. So for Franny, he's really no different than everybody else I've talked to. They just can't get that consistent, let me pencil in 1, 2, and 3, and then we'll work around that. You're right. He gets Wyatt and Lee for the most part. I mean, I really like Hollis Jefferson. He's almost a 9-point-a-game scorer, but he's probably best suited to be kind of a glue guy because he leads them in steals, he leads them in blocks. He just does a lot of little things. I don't know if night in and night out he's going to be that consistent third scorer. So it's very, very difficult. I mean, I know, I don't want to throw the kid under the bus, but I know that he thought Scooty Randall would be that guy for him. I'm certain he did. And, he's shooting.
He's been awful this year.
He's really had a very, very rough year. And then late in that game, they get him the ball in the inbounds, and he 79% free throw shooter with a chance to ice the game. He misses both free throws. So, I just think it's just going to be a battle that they're going to face. And, I guess if you're a Temple fan, you're hoping that, that Wyatt and Lee continue playing at a very high level. And then if you're in a tournament, one night it's Randall, one night it could be O'Brien, one night it could be somebody, it could be Will Cummings. I don't know. Cummings played a really solid second half. So I think you're going to have that third guy by committee because I just don't think there's a makeup on this team to pencil that third guy in and night out. But the good news is they're far from alone. That seems to be the story across the country.
Bob Chase Sr. here. Khalif Wyatt, he's not the biggest guy, he's not the quickest, not the strongest, but in his last 9 games has played and displayed one of the best offensive performances in recent Temple history. He's averaging just under 23 points in his last 9 games, 19 on the season to lead the Atlantic 10 Conference. I know it's hard to pinpoint this, but could Khalif Wyatt be a successful NBA player? And if so, why? If not, why not?
Well, I think he's got a shot. I mean, he's got good size. He's got great upper body strength when he goes to the goal. The thing that, and again, I had them last year, but I don't see him regularly like you do, so it's difficult to put my finger on saying, well, he got better at this and this and this. But I can tell you from watching him in person, the thing that makes him so tough to guard is if you watch him, he comes down and he squares his shoulders perfectly to the defender. And that's important for a couple of reasons. First of all, he's not tipping off which way he's going. So you don't know if he's going right, you don't know if he's going left. It's just enough to freeze the defender a little bit. He's got that good range. And then he breaks the game down with the simplest part. Once he squares his shoulders and gets a little head of steam at you, if you back up, he's going to just elevate and shoot the three. If you come out and close out on him, he's going to turn the corner. And then what makes him so tough is, he just, like I said, he's strong enough where he gets in the lane and he's going to absorb the contact. He's going to get the shot off and he's going to get to the free throw line. And when he gets to the line, he's been, really reliable. He's 82% free throw shooter. So, that's, in many ways, that's the NBA game, isn't it? It's taking advantage of a matchup, getting an opportunity where you can knock down the perimeter shot if they play off you. If they don't, be able to go around you. He's not lightning. You're right. He's not dazzling and anything. He's not lightning quick.
He's got a great pace to his game, though.
I'm sorry?
He's got a great pace to his game.
No, he does, and that's the thing that I was impressed by. And I said earlier, he looks like an experienced player. He looks like a senior. He looks like a guy that knows how to play. And I know you said you called it struggling in the first half, and that's true. I don't think anybody would be cavalier about not playing as well for 40 minutes, especially for a team that's striving for consistency. But I was impressed. Franny had him out of the game for a long time until that last stretch.
He did.
That on the broadcast. I was like, what is he? Why is he sitting? And I wanted to talk to Franny after the game and ask him. I wasn't really sure why he did that. He was being punished, arrested, or something, but he wasn't in foul trouble. He only had 2 fouls, I think. But to his credit, he comes in, and he's not sulking, he's not pouting, he's not doing anything. He just goes out, takes the game in his hands, and makes the big shot. And then, frankly, made a terrific defensive play on Dillard at the midcourt line. Dillard
to force him to travel, yeah.
Foul, but that was no foul there. That was a great trap. I think it was with Lee, if I'm not mistaken.
It was with Lee, yes, you're correct.
He and Lee formed a terrific double team, and there was no foul there, and that was as important as the shot was.
We're talking to Bob Valvano of ESPN. And, Bob, let's get to the refereeing because, to me, I just had one problem with it, and that was really the call towards the end of the game. Anthony Lee, Temple just takes the lead, and then they call a foul on him. What did you see on that play? I just thought that was one of the weakest calls I've seen in recent memory.
My father refereed for 32 years. The officials generally like me because I'll never be confused with Jay Billis. To fling him gleefully under the bus. I generally try and see it from their side, but I said on the air, and I felt you had to say on the air, because if I was just flicking, channel surfing and watching that, I would be screaming at the announcer if he wasn't pointing out that it was a horrifically officiated game in the last stretch. Just terrible. Now to forget the play where Lee was called for the foul, which I don't think would have been called. This is what I say all the time, and I really do believe it. Fans who say, you can't call that in the last minute, I don't like that because it's hard enough to call basketball well. If now all of a sudden you start putting these conditions in, well, that can't be a foul there. Okay, well, is it a foul with 2 minutes to go? Is it a foul with 3 minutes to go? How about if the game is a 4-point game or a 2-point game or a 7-point game? You can't do that. So you got to see it and call it. But the point was, that shouldn't have been a foul, with 10 minutes to go in the first half. It was just a guy trying to fight over the screen. They bumped into each other. That call I thought was ridiculous. But the one that was worse, the one that was clearly worse was
at the end of the game.
Frank did a terrific job where they inbound the ball to Randall. I assume everybody's thinking he's going to throw it to Wyatt, so they overplay the defense that way. Randall breaks into the backcourt, and the guy is so far away from him, he goes to foul him, and if you watch the replay, he literally, not even incidental contact.
He didn't even touch him.
They were playing touch football. He still would have been allowed to run. He doesn't even touch him. And that should have run out the last 1.8 seconds. The game should have been over. Temple should have been accepting congratulations. Instead, they put him to the free throw line, and yeah, you can say, well, he could have made the free throws. It doesn't matter. He shouldn't have had to make the free throws. The game should have been over at that point. That was unbelievably bad. I really was. I couldn't believe that call at all.
Bob, you know what I always learned from playing basketball intramural in high school? If you thank the refs after the game, usually the next game you always get the call down the stretches.
Well, you know what? It's a good approach, but I don't think they do it on purpose. That's the one thing I'll say. I don't think they ever consciously balance things out. I don't. But I do think that, I had the Louisville game, not the Louisville game, excuse me, the Ohio State Michigan game, which I hope you guys saw. But,
yeah.
There were the two plays at the end of the game, and the very, very last play, the kid from Ohio State should have been called, Kraft should have been called for a flagrant foul on the possession before. I mean, my God, that was like a textbook definition of a flagrant foul. He basically walked up and punched the guy in the face to stop the clock, and they didn't call it flagrant, so then he drives the lane on the last play, and that's a 50-50 play. I don't think it was a foul, but you could have called it and not really had to apologize. I don't think it's a conscious decision on the official's part, but I'll bet you in the back of his mind there's a little part of him that says, dude, I just gave you a break on the other one. You're not getting this one, too. So that they do probably equal out that way, even if it's not I don't think they deliberately make even-up calls, but I do think you're right. There's a little internal barometer in there that says, I gave him a break on that last one, 50-50 play. I'm not giving him another one.
We've seen a plethora of teams this year, as we're talking to the great Bob Valvano. A few more questions right before we let you go. We've seen a plethora of teams be number one this year in the NCAA for college basketball. Who do you think the best team is right now in the nation?
The team that I've seen in person that I think is the best is still Indiana. I just think they are the only thing that they're not really, really good, borderline great on, is if you can slow the game and make them play half-court offense, they're just above average. They're not great. But everything else, they have four. Forget about Temple looking for that third scorer. They got four consistent scorers. Oladipo has played himself into a Player of the Year candidate. He's that good. He's a lockdown defender. Their defense is much better than it was last year. How about this for a stat? Cody Zeller leads them in rebounding and also leads them in fast break points, which means he gets a rebound, throws the outlet, and then gets down the floor before anybody else scores.
Unbelievable.
And he runs like a deer. He absolutely runs incredibly. If they play up tempo, if they play the same kind of game they played against Kentucky in the Elite Eight last year, I don't think they'll lose that kind of game this year. If they can get it going breakneck, they got too many weapons, too many guns. They're too good. So everybody's, there's not a perfect team out there. Them included. They're not great in, as I said, when they play half-court offense. But other than that, I think they're the best team. But I also really, really like Billy Donovan's Florida team. They are a little different than his other championship teams. I think they may be better than those other teams. But they have great upper-class experience. Kentucky's ruined the way we analyze the game because they did it with one-and-dones. Everybody thinks that's the recipe, forgetting the fact that there's not an Anthony Davis in every freshman class or a Michael Kidd-Gilchrist. There's not. Their freshman class this year, while it was the best class on the market last year, is not as good as last year's. In fact, Mike Pratt, who does the color analysis for Kentucky on their radio, was an All-American player for them, said he thinks there's only one player in this recruiting class that probably would have started in any of Cal's other recruiting classes, and that's Nerlens Noel. So when I look at Florida, to get back to them, I think that we don't make enough of the fact he has good, talented, experienced players. They understand how to play together, and they really defend you right now. So I think Florida has a really good chance, too. The team that's not getting any respect is Miami, and I don't know what they have to do.
They're 10-0 in the ACC right now.
My brother coached in that league for 10 years, won 3 ACC championships, was coach of the year twice. He was never 10-0. I mean, nobody goes 10-0 in that league. And I know it's not a great league, but it's still a pretty good league.
They blew out Duke, too.
And that's the other thing. Look at the margins they're beating people by. You know why they're not getting more respect? Because they lost the Florida Gulf Coast. That's why. But the fact of the matter is, when they lost that game, they were decimated by injuries and guys being out. And since they've had their whole team together, they're unbeaten with the actual group that they've got. And Jim Larranaga is a terrific coach. So I hope they start getting their due because they certainly deserve it.
Bob, shifting gears back to the Atlantic 10, that conference is as strong and as deep as it has ever been with the Butler and the VCUs coming into the conference before this season. Does the Atlantic 10 deserve more credit than they're getting, and are they one of the better conferences in college basketball right now?
It depends on what you mean by credit. If you mean from the casual fan, if you go stop a guy, in Minnesota and ask, name the best basketball conferences, would he be late to get to the Atlantic 10? Would you not even mention the Atlantic 10? Yeah, you're probably right. They don't have the national perception. They don't have the national media footprint that the other leagues do. But the people who know, and I think Joe Lunardi does a pretty good job of gauging, I mean, they have as many teams in Joe's brackets, at least when we did the game on Saturday. They got as many teams in the NCAA tournament as the ACC does, as I think the Pac-10 does, as the SEC does. So, no, I think that they're getting their due. I think the two best non-Power 6 conferences by a wide margin are the Atlantic 10 and the Mountain West. I mean, they're both very, very good. The basketball is great there. The best teams in those leagues can compete with anybody in the country. So I think the people in the business know. But, I mean, if the media footprint, the TV contracts, they are what they are, and they probably don't get as much attention and as much respect as they deserve.
The best, right before we let you go, as a kid growing up in New York, some of the best memories of radio with Mike and the Mad Dog was when your brother used to call in and seeing all those archives growing up. Can you just tell me a little bit more about your brother and your work right now with the V Foundation before we let you go?
Yeah, I mean, I was very close with him. I miss him tremendously. It's awkward for me sometimes that people, think somehow like I'm trying to be him. I mean, I grew up in the same family. My father was an athletic director. We loved sports. We loved media. My oldest brother, Nick, was a high school basketball coach before he went into business. So, I mean, I do this because I love doing it. But, so it's not a matter of let's try and do a Jim did coach and then go into broadcasting. But the fact of the matter is, what's convenient about it is a lot of the contacts are the same contacts. So it's wonderful to me to run into people that, I saw your brother speak at a clinic in Cleveland. I heard your brother do a motivational speech. I worked for Ford Motor Company, and he did a bunch of motivational speeches. And some of the people who were literally his interns when he started at ESPN now are running the joint. I mean, they're in positions of administration and management, and it's fun. I mean, so it keeps them alive. I was very close with him. There's no question about that. I was the only younger brother he ever had. I mean, there's only one, and that was me. And he was a mentor to me and a friend to me, and he made me laugh harder than anybody on the planet. And so I'm happy to, in some small way, continue his legacy with the V Foundation. I mean, ESPN's support of that is ridiculous. It's off the charts. Everybody's enthusiasm for it. Jimmy V Week in an economy that's still recovering set a record this past December, $1.6 million raised, which is amazing, and a lot of that is just people picking up the phone when the game is on and when they're showing the speech and saying, I'm going to send $10 or $15 or whatever it may be. And so, I feel like I get to see him on a regular basis. He comes out in December for Jimmy V Week, and I get to tell the stories and watch the speech. And then in March, all of a sudden, in a couple of weeks, we'll start seeing the commercial where he's running around the court like an idiot trying to find somebody to hug after they win the national championship. And there'll be those memories. And then in the summer, when the ESPYs come around, of course, that's where he made that speech. So I would love to see him every day, but keeps his memory and spirit alive. And it's obviously bittersweet because I wish he were here to see all this stuff, but I do feel he's very much alive, and his presence is still very much being felt.
Well, the V Foundation is absolutely incredible, just like everything you mentioned. This was a whole lot of fun to have you on today. Thanks so much, and let's get you on again real soon.
I look forward to it, guys. Thanks.